Ladies and gentlemen, sports fans alike, welcome to another edition of Bill Swerski, Sports Talk Chicago. One of the couple, two, three best podcasts around. So sit back, grab yourself a cold one and a Polish sausage, park your keister in the French room, and listen to Bill Swerski, Sports Talk Chicago.
In Chicago, you know that all sports rock. The Bears, Hawks, Bulls, Cubs, and Sox. Pick your favorite, you can choose, as long as the Packers lose. For everything you need to know, it's Bill Swerski, Sports Talk Chicago. Bill Swerski, Sports Talk Chicago.
Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of Bill Swerski, Sports Talk Chicago. This is your hosts, Alex and Sean. On this episode, we are going to have Rajon Rondo's broken thumb, the Cubs bats coming alive, and what did we see on ice? All of this and more on this episode of Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago. But first, I'd like to thank our sponsor, the Rockford Ice Hogs. If you're not familiar with the Rockford Ice Hogs, they're the AHL minor league affiliate of the Chicago Blackhawks. What does that mean for you? You get to see the stars of tomorrow today at family-friendly, affordable prices. So the season is over now, but that doesn't stop you, or that shouldn't stop you, from heading over to icehogs.com and getting yourself a jersey, a hat, and signing up for season tickets for next year. Only 90 minutes from the city limits and fun for the whole family. Head on over to icehogs.com. Tell them Swerski Sports sent you. All right, Alex.
Yeah, a lot to say about a certain subject. I think you and I both know what that is.
So
ugly.
The big question is, do we just deal with the 800-pound gorilla in the room, or do we just let it linger for a little bit?
Well, I don't know. I feel like if we let it linger, I think that's the main topic of this show, in my opinion, is talking about that. So I guess get everything else out of the way so we could really go in depth with the bad. I don't know. That's just my input.
That works for me. Let's just get this one right out of the way. There's really nothing going on in Bearsville. The NFL draft is coming up this Thursday. The Bears have the number 3 overall pick. And honestly, there's just no news. Anything you hear is sort of deception. I did hear 2 bits that were a little bit interesting. I heard an interview with Jamal Adams, the safety from LSU, and he mentioned that the scout from the Jets, because he was going to the Jets for a visit, and they have I believe the 6th overall pick, and they told him, "I don't know why you're bothering with this meeting with us, because you're going to be gone before that."
Interesting.
So that means that they're really geared up to probably the Bears to take him, because you can't figure that he's going to go 1 or 2, and so that means either Jacksonville or the Bears probably going to take him, or they expect them to. So maybe that's the first real hint of what the Bears might be doing.
Yeah, because this is right now the time where you hear rumor after rumor. People saying they're going to draft him. No, they're going to be eyeing a quarterback. No, they're going to be wanting to trade. They're going to be wanting to do this. It's at the point where I'm so sick of hearing the rumors, and I just want it to happen already. Just draft already, so we could go from speculating who we're going to get to analyzing who we have.
Absolutely. This last week or 2 weeks is just agonizing, and everybody comes out of the woodwork, and I was chatting with Lester Wolfung, who's the editor for one of the Bears websites, I think for SB Nation, Windy City Gridiron, and he was saying that he loves chatting with people about the draft, but he's like, he gets really upset because people just argue with him for no reason, and that they've never seen the player, they don't know anything about the player, and that's really where we're at now, is the point where all of the teams, the people that are making the actual choices, they've already they've looked at everybody, they've discussed everybody, they have a game plan of where they want to go. So this is the guy we want at this pick, but if he's not available, here's where we go. They've done their own internal mock drafts so they can, have different scenarios, and they're just staying mum because they don't want to give that away. And now it's just, and every draft quote expert is giving their 2 cents, and now it's just the fans that have only seen highlight reels or heard of a guy and know what position he plays and what school he went to that are just chirping, and that's the most frustrating part for me.
Yeah, no, I definitely understand that. One of the most frustrating parts for me through all this is when the Bears schedule came out, 2 days ago? I guess that's the biggest Bears news is the schedule. I'll get to that in a minute, but there's all these experts kind of like saying, oh, they'll go 6-10, 5-11. Like, they're giving all these predictions and all this schedule by schedule outlook, and I just keep saying to myself, wait till the draft happens. Like, the draft can make a difference. I don't like predicting that kind of stuff until the draft happens. That's just me.
I don't even like to do it until training camp because, until training camp, I mean, just think about it, is we had a completely different offensive line until training camp.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true.
Think about the Minnesota Vikings last year. They were being picked as a possible Super Bowl contender, and in training camp, boom, down goes their quarterback.
Yeah.
We don't know what he's going to be
true.
like. We don't. Is he healthy? Who's going to be their quarterback? What's going to happen over there? So
what kind of moves is the front office going to make in the case of that kind of emergency?
Yeah. So there's so many moving parts still that I don't know. It's hard to predict. Is everyone's chalking up, well, the Bears are going to lose to the Falcons. Well, I mean, the Bears of last year versus the Falcons of last year. Oh yeah, absolutely. But we don't know what's going to happen with the Falcons. Are they going to have one of those Super Bowl hangovers after the most embarrassing defeat ever, losing their offensive coordinator, the losses they had in free agency? Are they going to be the same team? Who knows?
Yeah, exactly.
There's so many moving parts. It just doesn't make any sense to be like, well, this is what's going to happen, because we're predicting games that are all the way in September from April, and we don't even know what the teams are going to look like yet.
Right, exactly. So I thought that maybe for a quick minute we could discuss the Bears schedule. I wanted to talk about the Bears schedule with you. We talked about those factors about training camp and the draft and whatnot, and you're definitely right about all that. But I will say, it's not an easy schedule by any means. It's a pretty tough start to the season. The Falcons, Tampa Bay, Pittsburgh, Green Bay, Minnesota. That's a pretty challenging start to the season. I mean, at least at the outlook right now.
Oh, absolutely. It is. The schedule makers didn't do them any favors. The start. I mean, they start with a nice, alternating home road. But, starting off Atlanta, Tampa, Pittsburgh, Green Bay, Minnesota, Baltimore, Carolina, New Orleans, Green Bay, Detroit, Philadelphia. It's not until you get to San Francisco that you even get a break.
Right, exactly, because the end of the year, the schedule is very light. I mean, you play the Vikings on the last day of the season, but again, who knows what the Vikings are going to be like this coming year. Okay, it seems like we always end the season in Minnesota. It seems like that happens almost every year. And the one time it didn't happen that way was when Green Bay beat us in Week 17. I guess that's just kind of how it goes, but, So, yeah, like you said, the schedule making didn't really do the Bears much favor, but there is that nice kind of home road at the beginning. That's about it.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard when you have to start off the season with a bunch of games on the road, or if you have too many games at home in a row, it makes that stretch when you have a bunch of road games in a row that much more difficult. So it's a nice balance at the beginning, but it's going to be really hard. And to your point, with ending the season mostly with Minnesota, is the NFL schedule makers, they try to do like interdivision games, so the last game of the season, hopefully they can set it up where it's a matchup for the winner takes the division title. So in the years that they had the Bears playing Green Bay, they expected those to be the top two teams, and now it's Detroit versus Green Bay, the last game of the season. So schedule makers kind of think that those two will be 1 and 2, and Bears and Vikings will be lining up for the cellar. So that's the sort of the reason they do that, is they try to create interest at the end of the season.
Yeah, I knew the whole thing about like the division at the end, but you made that really good point about the chances of it being like a big game considering who the teams are. That's a good point. I never really thought about that. It makes sense. It's just, wouldn't it be nice if we saw a game at the end of the season matter? It's been a while.
Yeah, I mean, it's so hard to predict that, is because what are the odds that it comes down to a tight, the last game, and that you predicted what the game would be? Usually somebody will run away with it, especially you consider that like the AFC East, where it's a race for second place. It's hard to have drama in that division, and the Bears division honestly is, you sort of pencil the Green Bay Packers in there, and it's can somebody else become a wild card and make the playoffs?
Right. Sometimes it's the Lions like last year. Sometimes it's Minnesota, who won the division 2 years ago. So it seems like it's been the Packers and then a rotating door of different teams contending other them. So, hopefully our time comes soon. The other thing I wanted to bring up is, when's the last time we haven't played San Francisco in a season?
That one I couldn't tell you, because
I feel like we play them every year.
Well, this year it's because they have a formula for the schedule. You play every team in your division twice, and then you play. So that's 6 games, and then you have 10 more games, and you play you play one NFC division, every team in there, and one AFC division. And then the 2 divisions in the NFC that you don't play, you play the team that had the corresponding rank. So whichever place they finish in the division, you corresponding one in those other 2 divisions. So
that's how those other 2 work. Okay, because I knew the division ones, like the same division, the AFC and the NFC. Because, like the AFC, it's kind of like interleague play in baseball. You play one division. But those other 2 games, that I did not know. So that's interesting.
It seems like they play the San Francisco 49ers a lot because they're playing their division, which in the NFC, when you play the AFC, it happens every 4 years you play it.
Right.
But then with the NFC, it's every 3 years. And the Bears have been the last few years tend to have been the bottom of the barrel, and so the 49ers. So that's why they end up playing them.
Yeah, because like most seasons I look back at, there was always a game against the 49ers, whether it was good, whether it was bad. Because in 2014, that really bad season, the 49ers were still good. We had that big upset against them, and we thought things were going to turn around. The next year was when we should have won that game, and then Robbie Gould missed the field goal. Last year, we beat a team that was even worse than us. I remember Colin Kaepernick's first career game in 2012 when he trounced the Bears in that season. And did they play them in 2013? That might have been the one year that they haven't played them in the past, 5 years.
Yeah, I don't remember if they played them in 2012. So it makes sense that, in 2013 they played the Saints and the Panthers, so they played that division. So that makes sense. Yeah, that would make sense because 2014 they played they play that division, because that would mean 2015, 2016, 2017 that they play them again. So that's right on that schedule. 2013. Let's see, did they play? They didn't play them in 2013.
Right, that's what I thought. 'Cause I'm like, 2012 was Colin Kaepernick's first game, killed us. 14, the upset for the Bears. 15, the missed field goal, Blaine Gabbert beating us. Last year, beat a team that was worse than us. I didn't think they played them in 2013.
Yeah, they did not. The two conference opponents that were in a different division that they played were the Saints and the Rams.
Okay, yeah. That's right. I remember that Rams game. Bears scored a lot, and the opponents scored even more a lot, which was kind of a theme that year.
Yeah, that was a rough season.
You know, what's so sad about that 2013 team is that the offense was great. If they had just a middle-of-the-road defense, they win that division with no problem. That was so frustrating.
The one good game they played that season was that Cowboys game.
Oh, yeah, they demolished them. Absolutely demolished them.
Yeah, that Cowboys game, that was a I believe that was Alshon came up big in that game. That was a Josh McCown game.
Yes, it was.
I remember I was at the gym watching the game, and McCown had he had to have 350, 400 yards passing. I remember Matt Forte ran for over 100.
Michael Bush scored a touchdown.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
Remember Michael Bush?
Michael Bush. Wow, he was somebody I completely forgot about from that season. Michael Bush.
Yeah, he really only scored touchdowns. He was never a long back kind of guy.
But it's funny because he's best known for that injury he had in college. Is having that broken leg. It's that type of broken leg. It's known as the Michael Bush injury.
Yeah, that's right. I forgot about that.
Yeah, the Michael Bush injuries. Let's see. Alshon Jeffrey had 84 yards receiving and 1 touchdown.
Yeah, because the 1 touchdown he had, he was in the back of the end zone and as close as you could be to the end zone without being outside of it. And he reached his hands out, stretched out as far as he could and somehow caught it with 2 guys on him.
Yeah, that was a game, because I remember everybody was like, "Oh man, the Cowboys are gonna cream the Bears," and they did. The Bears looked great, and then suddenly they forgot how to play after that.
Well, yeah, because looking back at that season, and there are 3 games you could look at that they lost and say, if you just had some defense, you would have won the division easily. The worst memory was that game in Minnesota with the overtimes when Robbie Gould missed a field goal in overtime, easy chip shot field goal, when they kicked for it on second down, I think. They were up 20-10 in the fourth quarter, and they blew it. Game against the Redskins that they lost 47-45.
45-41.
45-41, yeah. And then it all ended on 4th and 50 and the Randall Cobb touchdown. That season honestly angers me more than any other Bears season of recent.
Well, that one, I lived in Philadelphia for 9 years, and my wife is an Eagles fan, and they lost that season to the Eagles 54-11.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, that was a tough pill to swallow, because all of my Philadelphia friends they all conveniently on December 23rd decided to just start texting me and Facebook messaging me and, "Hey, your Bears suck." Thanks, I have eyes too.
Yeah, because I remember the first play of the game, Hester fumbled it. I believe that's what happened. He fumbled the kickoff, and it just went up Schitt's Creek from there. Awful.
And there was Nick Foles was the quarterback for the Eagles.
Yes,
Nick Foles
had a day.
Yeah.
And the Packers lost that night, so if we would have won that game, we would have won the division. It was a gift wrap right there, and then we didn't take it.
Yeah, Matt Forte rushed for 29 yards. LaShawn McCoy, the Eagles had 2 guys rush for over 100 yards.
Yep. That
Brown
run
and McCoy.
defense was awful. Awful.
Yeah. Brent Selleck had 60 yards receiving. Man, that was just ugly. Ugly.
And then it all ended. Chris Conti, man, it just. Sheesh.
That was still when Jeremiah Ratliff was on the team before he went crazy and
Yep.
tried to kill everybody.
Yep. Yep.
Hopefully, though, we can look at the 2017 season, in the future and be like, that was a great season. Hopefully, that's something we can say. But the schedule makers did not do the Bears any favors.
No, certainly not. Certainly not.
So, yeah, the Bears. So we'll see next week when we talk. We'll be able to break down who the Bears chose and either be able to be excited or we can all commiserate over the airwaves.
Yep. It'll be interesting to talk about once the speculation of the draft is over and then we finally got the future. Be fun to analyze.
Yeah, absolutely. So the Cubbies.
Yeah.
The Bats have come alive. The Bats have
To say
definitely
the
come
least.
alive. But I guess we could just we'll talk about the games and then and some of the other issues. But since we last talked, the Cubs have gone 4-1. So they lost that game Monday right after we aired, and then they've won 4 straight.
Mm-hmm.
And they've scored some runs in there. In that loss, they had 3 runs. They had 9 runs on Tuesday against the Brewers, 7 against the Brewers on Wednesday, 6 against the Reds yesterday, and then it really came to life today. Scored 12. That's the good stuff. That's the positive. Let's talk about that first.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean the bats are, now that the weather's starting to warm up, the pitchers don't have the advantage over the hitters as much anymore, and you're going to start to see Cubs bats come alive, and that's what you're doing, especially against the Brewers and the Reds, who they may have good records right now, but you can't expect those 2 teams to be high in the standings for the division come September, October.
Yeah, I think honestly we broke the Reds last night on that Rizzo 3-run home run. I think that just kind of broke them, and then they're going to be going back to being the Reds.
I heard somebody on the radio just mention that going to the Great American Ballpark for the Cubs is kind of like just going to the fair, and they're all excited and they're going to win all the prizes and eat all their food and get all the happiness and joy, and then go home and leave the Reds sad.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, if you look at the crowds the last 2 nights, empty seats galore, but the people who were there, it was all blue. I had a few friends who were at the game last night, and they said how the stands of the people that were there, which was about 25,000, so about half full, they said about 80% of that crowd were Cub fans. And seeing the footage on TV, yeah, it was definitely much in favor of Cubs fans.
Oh yeah, and you're going to see that, especially in some of these like smaller market, mid-market teams. You're going to see Cubs fans there, especially division rivals, and that's just the Cubs. Chicago teams travel well. Part of it is that when people move away, they keep their allegiance to their team and they show up. Also, is Chicago fans travel really well. And wait until the Las Vegas Golden Showers start up. I mean the Golden Knights. when they start up is when they first play. That is going to be 97% Blackhawks fans. There for a long weekend.
You bet. Oh, that it's going to be. It honestly might be worse than when they play the Coyotes.
Yeah,
that's really saying something.
Yeah, I mean, if I can find a cheap flight, I may go out there. I already have a friend who is making that plan. He's a Flyers fan, and he's like, I'm gonna go out there. He's like, I'm gonna fly in that afternoon, go to the game, wait until his favorite donut shop opens up, eat some donuts, and then go straight to the airport and fly back home.
You might as well. I mean, hey, it's worth a shot. It's worth seeing it. If you go to Vegas and see a brand new stadium, heck, I'd go. And it's not going to be just the Hawks that are going to be doing that. Most big market Original Six teams, when they play Vegas, it's going to be a road game for the home team. It's going to be ridiculous.
Oh yeah, but that's part of the life of a terrible franchise moving a new stadium. Is you're going to have to figure out how to get fans.
And it's funny how we're talking about this, and then we're also mentioning the Cincinnati Reds. The Cincinnati Reds are like the oldest ball club in sports, really. They've been in Cincinnati for over 150 years. And yet, especially in the regular season, in the first month, I mean, they get really, really, really small crowds no matter what in April and May at the Great American Ballpark. And I mean, I know the Reds have a pretty loyal fan base overall. It's not very big, but they have a fan base. But it never stops the Cubs fans from snagging those tickets, because I remember years when the Cubs were terrible. It was still blue everywhere in that stadium when the Cubs played in Cincinnati. I'll never forget, I think the biggest takeover I've ever seen in that ballpark was when the Cubs were battling for the division title in 2007, and they clinched the division in Cincinnati. Not only was it a sellout crowd, it was a sellout crowd of pure blue. I don't know if you remember that.
Vaguely.
If you look up what they did in 2007 in Cincinnati when they won the division, it was pretty crazy. So it's like every time the Cubs are in Cincinnati, it feels like a home game. The fans are going nuts for every Cub home run, and the Cubs just love playing in Cincinnati. It seems like so many of the regular season historical moments over the years have taken place in the Great American Ballpark, whether it's first career home runs, whether it's no-hitters, whether it's all-time performances like Chris Bryant last year, or just kind of like club records for homers or runs in a game. It seems like so much of that happens at the Great American Ballpark. Yeah,
and it's a nice stadium. One time I was there for work, and I caught a game. I'm trying to think of who they were playing. I don't remember. But I just caught a game while I was there a couple years ago, and it's a nice stadium. And
it looks great. I'd love to see it.
And it's only about 4.5 hours from Chicago, so it's not even that far. So it's a prime target for Cubs fans to make that trip.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like the tickets are too terribly expensive, so it's probably cheaper to go to Cincinnati to see a game than it is to Wrigley right now.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, especially if you're considering you're coming from somewhere like Joliet, that's you're south of the city, and you figure, I got to drive in, I got to pay for parking, I got to pay for my family to go and eat something. Or from Joliet, you're looking like 4-hour drive, and you're like, all right, 4-hour drive, and it's free parking, and the tickets are much cheaper and easier to get. And then if you consider it make it a long weekend and you go for Friday, Saturday, Sunday game, then there you go. You just did a little mini family vacation and saved a bundle over going to 3 Cubs games at home.
Yeah, and considering that the Great American Ballpark, the concourses from the pictures and the videos I've seen, I mean, they look like it's really big and spacious, and the concessions are really, really nice, except for the chili. I hear the chili is terrible, but that's a whole other story. It just seems like a good ballpark to go to.
They put their chili on top of spaghetti.
Yeah, why? Just why?
I like pasta sauce. Like, why put chili on there? It's so
Right,
weird.
me too. Chili should be chili, spaghetti should be spaghetti. I don't know why you'd mix the two. But, I mean,
I know.
despite that, it looks worth it to go there.
Yeah, absolutely. But people that put chili on spaghetti are probably the same people that call hot dog sandwiches.
Yeah, or they question why we Chicagoans don't put ketchup on our hot dogs. So I guess every region has their thing.
So yeah, the even in the loss to the Brewers, which the Cubs won that series, which was nice to get back on a series winning streak.
Yeah.
They scored 3 runs, even though you're still seeing Schwarber not fully hitting, Bryant fully not hitting, Zobrist not hitting, Russell not really hitting. It's honestly, you got Rizzo and Hayward and Contreras that are sort of carrying this team with their bats.
Yeah, and Almora too.
Oh yeah, Almora. Yeah,
John Jay off the bench. But yeah, it's one of those things where when you start a season, especially when you have so much talent, there's always going to be those guys who are getting off to a slow start. There's always going to be those guys getting off to a really good start. And some of those really good start guys have to carry the weight of some of the slow start guys. But it's going to even out because despite Jason Hayward hitting really well, despite Anthony Rizzo hitting well, it seemed like there wasn't a lot of home run power there for a while. But now they're all kind of starting to flex their muscles a little bit. So you just got to give it a little time to nudge.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the game 2 of that series against the Brewers, the Cubs bats came alive 9-7. You saw a monster home run by Schwarber. You saw a Montero home run, which you're not going to probably see too many of those this season. And Schwarber had 2 RBIs. Montero had 2 RBIs. Almora had 2 RBIs. It was feast and famine there.
Yeah, and John Jay hit the game-tying triple. Yeah, game-tying off the wall. Almost hit it out of the park, but he thwacked it, and everything just kind of started to look like regular Cubs baseball again because we saw a lot of frustrating at-bats and a lot of weak contact, and then all of a sudden they turned on the jets and they were running and slugging, and it looked like normal again.
Yeah, and then the ultimate game was Wednesday. I was not expecting the Cubs to win that game because getting into the later innings, they were down. What was it? 4-1. 4-1, and then they scored 1 in the 6th, 1 in the 8th, and 4 in the 9th to blow that game open.
Yeah, I know that was pretty wild.
Yeah, and Addison Russell helped lead that charge there.
Yeah, what was really funny about Addison Russell in the last game of the Brewers series? The home run he hit to walk it off. I don't remember the exact exit velocity, but it was absolutely vaporized. You knew the second he hit it, it was gone. But the at-bat before, how he literally just stuck his bat out and it blooped perfectly right over the first baseman's head. So it kind of just goes to show how funny of a game baseball is in a span of 2 different at-bats.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just between 2 different pitchers, between just the difference of it's the ultimate game of inches. Is a half an inch this way or that way, and is a home run that's 110 mile an hour exit velocity from the bat versus popped straight up to the catcher.
Right. Yeah. I mean, one little difference in swing and angle changes everything. And that's one of the hardest things to adjust to because pitchers adjust to you, you got to adjust to them. It's a game of constant adjustments, and that's why you're going to see guys who start off slow, like Bryant or, Zobrist. And, if they work at it, which they will, you'll see things start to come around. It's just, you got to deal with the growing pains of a regular season, because I say this over and over, what we saw last year is what a lot of people were probably expecting, like a 26-6 start. A 26-6 start, even for the greatest teams of all time, is a extremely rare feat. It's not going to happen all the time.
That's an anomaly because they didn't finish the season like that. It's just really an anomaly.
Right.
I remember one year where it was the Reds. They started off like 17-0 at the start of the season, and they were a good team, but like that's bizarre. That's just not statistically probable. That's just the rare chance. It's like rolling a 6 on the dice 10 times in a row. It just doesn't happen.
Right, because, one of the things that a lot of people talk about at the beginning of a season, like a week or two in, if there's someone putting up some outrageous statistics, you always say, this is great, this is fun to watch, but we know this is not sustainable. Because baseball is, like I said, a weird game, and, balls you're scolding and finding holes and finding grass, eventually things are going to start to even out a little more, and you're not going to hit it as well. There's going to be adjustments made, and you're going to hit some balls hard, but they're going to be at defenders, or a defender is eventually going to make a great play on you. That kind of stuff is just not sustainable.
Absolutely. And speaking of baseball sort of averaging out is, you look at it, is Schwarber has been inconsistent this year, and that he's gonna even that back out. Chris Bryant is batting like 220 something. Let me pull up the exact number here.
He's popping out a lot.
Yeah, 229. He's gonna even that out. I know he worked on a few things on his swing, and he works with his dad and the hitting coaches in the off season as they identify one problem from the previous season, and they try to correct that in the off season. And you're right, he's popping up a little more. He's not getting some clean hits, and they're going to revert back to some other things, because if you revert back to what you did last year, I'm sure everybody that's a Cubs fan is happy with that.
Yeah, absolutely. And you talk about Schwarber. Yeah, the actual hitting has been inconsistent, but I will say this, he is drawing walks like crazy. He is getting on base, and he is consistently having 3-2 full count at bats. So that's all great there. Just probably cut down on the strikeouts and a little more hitting, but with the way he's swinging, with the way it's looking, it'll come eventually. I'm not worried about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Because it's He's for a guy batting 229, he's got a 729 OPS.
And what's his on base now? 380 something?
I don't have that in front of me. Let's see if I can look that quick. But yeah, he is getting on base a decent amount.
Right, yeah. Because it seems like he draws a walk, at least one walk every game. And if not, it's at least a 3-2 count. It seems like he's always in a 3-2 count, and that's something you really want your leadoff hitter to do.
He's 329 on base percentage.
329?
Yeah.
Really? I thought it was higher than that.
That's what it is on MLB.com.
Huh. Kyle. I'm just going to check something really quick. Because I thought I saw differently.
The thing is these things could change so fast because of the low number of at-bats, but...
This one says 378 on Baseball Reference.
Huh.
Are you looking at the right... are you looking at, like, spring, or are you looking at regular season?
Let me see. It says 2017 stats. It says he's got 70 at-bats, 10 runs, 16 hits, 2 home runs, 10 RBIs, 3 stolen bases, 229 batting average, 329 on-base percentage, and 729 OPS.
Yeah, what this one says on Baseball Reference, 16 games, 3 home runs, 246 average, 378 on base, 459 slugging, 837 on base, because I thought before he flied out in his last at-bat today, his on base was 383.
You know what? Let's look at what Fangraphs has to say.
Fangraphs is the king.
Fangraphs, what do they have to say? I do like the Fangraphs.
I use them all the time as references in my sabermetrics articles.
Yeah. Betting standard. They have him as 329 as well.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
329
But
on
they
base?
have-
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
Yep.
That's really surprising. And you're looking at 2017.
Yep.
What? That's a. Okay, I guess so. That's really strange because Baseball Reference says completely different. I don't know.
But to be fair, is they also, maybe they don't have today's game on there.
MLB.com says 380
Now
in
you're
17 games.
what? This is crazy. I just
All right, I'm going to Fangraphs and checking this out. This is weird.
Maybe we're like this doing this show in a time warp.
Oh, maybe. I mean, you never know. All right, Fangraphs. Let's see.
Yeah, MLB.
This says 380.
Whoa, what? No way. Hold on.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do a screen capture because this is crazy. Fan
What did you say you read his on base as?
329.
320.
Failure of Chris Bryant.
Wait. I thought we were looking at Kyle Schwarber.
Oh no, Chris Bryant.
I was talking about Kyle Schwarber.
Well, that would. I'm like,
Wow. I was saying about Kyle Schwarber and the walks.
oh
Well, that explains it.
yeah. Schwarber and his walks. He like that dude. That dude should get like some luggage. Like
Yeah, seriously.
Samsonite should sponsor that dude because he's constantly going to first. Yeah, he's got a high on base percentage.
And a lot, like I said, a lot of 3-2 counts. It seems like he's always in the 3-2 count.
Yeah, and but I mean, all these averages, I'm not. Russell's about where I expect him. Maybe he gets around 250, at best 260 this year, but he's not too far off from where I expect him. Baez, he's going to have a higher app. Hayward is very pleasantly surprising to me.
Oh, he's been great.
I
His
mean,
home run today was awesome.
Back-to-back games with home runs.
Yeah, exactly. And what better place to start your home run streak than Great American Ballpark, am I right?
Oh, absolutely. And it's funny because we were both talking about after that first game that his swing was not looking that great. And I think he must have reverted back to some of the mechanics in that first game or two because afterwards he looks so much better at the plate. Even when he's making outs, he's making contact with that ball, and just you're watching him hit, and you're like, wow, this is the guy that we expected to see last year, and we didn't.
And it seems so much more fluid and quick. Like, you see just a lightning swing and you see the ball explode off his bat. Last year you saw the awkward swing as he followed through with his hips and everything was moving and the bat just looked kind of like a lazy big log just kind of swinging through the air, where this is a fluid quick swing squaring up the ball, and it's so great to see. And not only that, he's going to all fields. I mean, yeah, he's pulling the ball a bit more than he's not, but he's still spraying the ball to different fields more than he did last year.
Yeah, I mean he's not drawing walks as much as you would expect him to, but with that batting average, you're not that worried about it. I know we're never going to see that guy who, when he was with Atlanta and he hit 27, 28 home runs. And a lot of people were projecting him to be a home run guy. To 2012, he hit 27 home runs, and people were like, "Oh, maybe this guy's going to be a 30 home run, 40 home run power." and he's never gotten close to that number since then. But the line drive hitting, and that's fine with me. I mean, you've got Schwarber, Rizzo, Bryant, Contreras, Baez, Russell that all have that home run power. For me, I don't care. If as long as Hayward's hitting line drives, even if they get caught by somebody, is making that contact and hitting it hard. That's all that matters.
Exactly. Getting on base, he's a really smart base runner, and he's playing Gold Glove defense. So there you go. Good enough for me. I remember when Hayward first came up in 2010. I think he was 20 years old. First of all, he had his first career home run off Carlos Zambrano on opening day. I'll never forget that. But when he came up, he was supposed to be like, people were comparing him to like Ted Williams. Like that kind of toolsy good, where you have high average, high on base, power. Maybe they weren't exactly saying Ted Williams, but the kind of ability to be a 5-tool player. And it doesn't seem like power is the biggest thing in his game, and like you said, that's okay. Get on base, run the bases, run smart plays, and play Gold Glove defense. It's good enough for me.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're starting to see what we expected out of him. And I'm fine with, because if you look some of his Atlanta years, is he hit some nice home runs, but the average wasn't there. We like the one that's from the St. Louis, where he batted just under 300 and he had a 360 on base percentage. That's the Jason Hayward we want to see, I think. I'm speaking for everybody, but that's the Jason Hayward we like to see, with that OPS somewhere around 750, 800, on base percentage around 350, 360, batting average 280, 290. That would make me incredibly happy.
Absolutely, me too, because I think, like you said, the season I want him to replicate most of all was his 1 year in St. Louis. 293, 359, 797. Do something right around there, and that's golden. It's absolutely golden.
Yeah, absolutely. I think he had one of his lowest strikeout numbers, like strikeout rates that year as well.
Yeah, in St. Louis, he struck out 90 times. His career low was 73 in 2013, but he also missed a lot of time. He only played 104 games that year, as compared to St. Louis when he played 154 games with only 90 strikeouts, because the only time he played 150 or more was 2012, and he struck out 152 times.
Yeah, that was the year
there you go.
He hit 27 home runs.
Right.
He was really swinging for the fences.
Right, and his on base that year in 2012 with those 27 home runs was 335, and that's slightly above Fangraph's average. And I'd rather have an on base of about 360 like he did in St. Louis, if that means hitting 10 less home runs. Like that's fine with me.
Oh,
I'd rather have
absolutely.
him running the bases. Yeah.
Yeah, that on base percentage is much more important to me, because this team, once the bats get warm, will drive in runs. If you get him on base, the Cubs will drive him home. But it's nice to see them scoring all of these runs. But the part that's worrying me, and I'm sure is worrying you a little bit at least, is those 3 games against the Brewers. Lackey, 6 innings pitched, 4 earned runs, 3 home runs given up. The second game against the Brewers is Brett Anderson. This one is a little bit of an anomaly because he got hit with a hit ball and was battling through some pain. But 3 2/3 where he gave up 6 earned runs and 1 home run. You had Hendricks, 5 innings pitched, 4 earned runs, 2 home runs. you had John Lester 5 2/3, giving up 5 earned runs with 1 home run. And today you had Jake Arrieta go 6 innings pitched with 5 runs, 4 earned, and 2 home runs.
Yeah, the long ball has been kind of an issue with Cubs pitching the past week, I'd say. With that being said, I'm not too worried about the future of some of the pitching in this season, where like Kyle Hendricks, there's so much talk about him and having kind of a slightly dead arm that he's working through. So I think he'll pull it together there. Brett Anderson, I don't expect him to be that great, so that doesn't really surprise me. I really hope Lackey kind of doesn't keep doing that, but I did say at the beginning of the season, with his age, with his status quo, so to speak, I could see Lackey kind of struggling this year, because he was pretty good last year. He really was in the regular season.
But,
yeah, not in the postseason.
But it's funny because the John Lackey, I mean, he's got a 4 ERA, which is not awful, certainly not good. But I bet if you take out the first inning of games, I bet that ERA is pretty good.
Much lower.
It's
much lower.
First inning, he just really struggles. And even like the beginnings of that second, in that game, he gave up 3 home runs, and 2 of them, one was in the first, one was in the second, and he tends to settle down after that. I don't know what it is. You know, you think with a guy with that much, you know, experience in the game, playing the majors and playing in big games, and I mean, the guy won a World Series in his rookie year. I think he pitched Game 7. So it's
Yes, he did.
So the guy has experience. I just don't know why he struggles so much in those early innings.
I don't know either. Part of me thinks he's just getting old. He's almost 40. Other than that, I don't know. I can't help but wonder if the weather has kind of affected him a little bit. Maybe we'll see what happens when it gets warmer. I don't know. Could be just throwing it out there. Because we saw in the game against the Dodgers how he really labored through that first inning, and then the rest of the way he was pure dominant. The Cubs just didn't give him any run support that night. John Lackey is pitching tomorrow. His stats against many Reds hitters are not very good. I'm curious to see what happens tomorrow with that. But I definitely would like to see the pitching go a little further and not give up a lot of home runs. But I think that will come. With Lester yesterday, he labored through one inning. Like, he had a really bad inning that kind of screwed him over. But other than that, he was pretty good. I feel like the Cubs have been kind of demonized by 1 or 2 really bad innings, costing them pitch counts and runs. Because even Jake Arrieta today got off to an absolutely wretched start in the first inning and 2/3, and then after that he settled in and he looked like Jake Arrieta. So I'm not overly worried, but it is something to think about. And I think we all know that the pitching this year is not going to be the same numbers as it was last year, because last year the numbers were way above average.
Oh yeah, you know, it's. I just want to see the home runs cut down.
Yeah,
that's going to be a huge improvement. I mean, I think even Hendricks, I think most of his earned runs have been home runs. And the Brett Anderson, I was listening to Chris Basio talk, and he said that Brett Anderson got hit by the pitch and he was having muscle pains, and he labored through because he knew the Cubs bullpen had been taxed and that he was trying to get as many innings as possible, and he just was not effective. And he even made a joke about it afterwards, talking about how the Cubs bats bailed him out because, I mean, he just was terrible and only got 3 2/3, and you really
got hit real hard.
Yeah, and you saw the Cubs bullpen actually respond well. Brian Dunsing, well, forget about him, but Grimm came in and had a good game with 2 strikeouts. Carl Edwards who, when he's not, was he on bereavement? But when he came back, he's looked good. Rondon.
Yep. So it's great.
Yeah. And then Wade Davis came and shut it down again.
Wade Davis, I want to talk a little bit about that back end of the bullpen, because Wade Davis has been awesome. I don't think there's any other way to put it. He's been awesome.
Yeah, I'm very happy. As much as I was happy to win the World Series last year, and with what Aroldis Chapman did for the Cubs, he scared me a lot. Much like a certain wild thing that the Cubs used to have, Mitch Williams, where the stats were great, but you came in and you were like, I don't know, he's just throwing flames up there, and I don't know if he's going to hit somebody, if he's going to throw a wild pitch, if it's going to get clobbered.
Carlos Marmol, for goodness sake.
Yeah, more recent one. So with Chapman, it was never. I never was felt confident when he came in, even when he didn't give me reason to. But Wade Davis, he comes out there and just boom shuts it down, and you're like, this is what we've wanted for a long time.
Yeah, Wade Davis is Mr. Reliable. Wade Davis is one who makes you the least nervous. Because, yeah, like you said with Aroldis Chapman, because you ask, what if he doesn't have his fast fastball? What if it's only 98, 97 compared to 103? What if he's not throwing strikes and then things can get ugly? With Wade Davis, there's a guy who doesn't get hit hard at all, has great command, and has great movement. So, there's nothing really for me to worry too much about when Wade Davis comes in. The most concerning thing about Wade Davis this year was lingering injuries, but when it comes to his actual ability and stuff, he's one of the most trustworthy guys in the game of baseball.
Yeah, and I mean, you can't complain about any of the results. I mean, this year he's been in 9 games, and he hasn't given up a run yet.
Right, yeah. I think he's given up 2 or 3 hits and 1 walk, and that's about it. He's got a decent number of strikeouts. His fielding independent pitching is 0.47 or something, which is adjusted ERA, but he's never given up a run yet. So that's pretty good, I'd say. I just hope he could keep this up. But I do trust that he will be consistently good throughout the season because, I liked Soler's potential, but when I heard that they were trading him for Wade Davis, I'm like, all right, Wade Davis, waiter check, please. Let's go. Yeah. Love the guy, and I love having a closer that you can respect as a player and that you can just rely on. Yeah,
I mean, the thing with being able to trade him for Soler is I loved Soler, and I think he's going to blossom. It was just when you have the patience for him, and can you give him enough at bats? It was a crowded outfield. You just don't have enough at bats for him, and he wasn't a good enough fielder to be a defensive replacement at the end of the game. And he wasn't hitting well enough to put him in, a Schwarber situation where you kind of have to lock him in.
Yeah.
But you get Wade.
There's nowhere he could have gone. There's literally nowhere he could have been played at.
Yeah, and I mean, you would have liked to see them convert him into a starting pitch, trade him for a starting pitcher. But, when you get Wade Davis, I'm okay.
I'm not complaining about getting Wade Davis at all.
The Wade Davis's WHIP this year is a 0.6, which is nice. I like seeing that number.
Absolutely. I actually just wrote an article about top closers in the game right now earning money and what they're posting. Closers who are earning $10 million or more. Wade Davis is one of them. You look at his WHIP, you look at everything he's got so far, and there should be zero complaints. He's had I think the most dramatic moment he's had was in St. Louis. He let off a leadoff double and then struck out the next 3 guys, and the last few saves he's gotten have been boom, 1, 2, 3, easy peasy.
Yep, he's only given up 3 hits in 9 appearances.
Yeah, there you go.
And he's averaging over a strikeout an inning.
Right, and you mix that in with Hector Rondon, who had a horrific spring. He's been great so far. You mix it in with C.J. Edwards. He has probably the nastiest stuff in the bullpen. the back end looks great. It looks great.
Yeah, I'm very happy with that. It's that the middle relief, and part of it is, the Cubs starters aren't going as deep as you would like them to, and they've been short an arm in the bullpen. They like to carry one more pitcher, but just haven't had the opportunity, and I expect them to carry at least one more when they start in not too much longer, when they have this stretch where it's like 25 games in 26 days or something ridiculous like that. And you're going to expect them to probably add a sixth starter in there, maybe Montgomery, and have another bullpen arm to
Probably Rob Zastryzny is my guess.
that would be the obvious choice, I would think.
Yeah, because I will admit, as good as I think our bullpen is in the back end, like you said, yeah, there are some shaky things in middle relief. And I'm going to perfectly admit, I think this is where we really start to miss Travis Wood. He was really valuable in that bullpen, and I think we kind of took that for granted sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. And I thought just his ability to, no matter what situation you put him in, if you needed him a spot starter, he came in and was a spot starter.
Yep.
If you needed him to pitch, if your starter only lasted 2 innings and you needed him to pitch 5 innings of middle relief, he did it. If you needed to come and be a closer, the guy just did it. If you needed him to play left field, the guy came in and did it.
If you needed him to pinch hit, he could do it.
Yeah, so he's he was great for the Cubs, and he's struggling this year.
Honestly, I'm not surprised. I think going to the American League Central and pitching in the American League more often than not is a rough thing to do for that kind of a player.
Yeah, he's got a 13.5 ERA with a 2.6 WHIP.
Yeah, I mean, the kind of player he is on a kind of team that has no pitching depth whatsoever, it's kind of a death sentence for him, for his stats, if you want me to be completely honest.
Yeah, I don't know what the situation behind the scenes was. I don't know if the Cubs even offered him a contract or if he wanted a place where maybe he would have an opportunity to start.
I think that's the main reason, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, because for a lot of these guys, they want to be a starter. A, because the starters get more money than a middle reliever. B, is just the prestige of it. And C, it's just a pride thing. These guys are hyper competitive. They think they can. That's being a starter is a much more like prestigious thing, and they think they can do it, and they want to go out there and prove it.
Right, and it's also kind of surprising how Travis Wood would go to an American League team because he can't hit.
That's true as well.
Yeah, so I thought he was going to go to San Diego, frankly. That's where I thought he was going to go.
That wouldn't have shocked me either. Nice weather, a team that you had the opportunity to start for, you can still hit.
No pressure playing on the Padres.
No pressure at all. But it is what it is.
Yep.
But yeah, so with these Cubs hitters, it's just you hope, or pitchers, you just hope that the strikeouts, the home runs cut down as we go forward, because it's not even one guy that's struggling with it. It's the whole rotation.
Yeah, pretty much. I think the one who hasn't really given up the home run ball is Lester. Other than that, yeah, like Arrieta's given up home runs. Kyle Hendricks has given up the home runs. John Lackey has given up the home runs. Brett Anderson has given up the home runs. So, yeah, I would like to see that cut down. I have a good feeling it will. Because a lot of the teams that they've played, like the Brewers like lead the league in home runs right now.
Yeah,
it's kind of ridiculous.
They played the Pirates, and they're full of steroids. And oh wait,
yeah, there's that whole thing.
Did I say that out loud? Whoops.
Oops. And it was also during a weekend where the wind was howling out. So,
Yeah, yesterday was the first home run that Lester gave up this year. So he's been pretty good. Other than that start yesterday, he's been pretty rock solid. But it's
against the Pirates, he was great. He just got nothing from his team.
But Arrieta's gotten hit pretty good. Hendricks got hit pretty good. Brett Anderson, other than the game the other day, has not gotten hit that hard. But Lackey's gotten hit pretty good in the first couple innings of games. So it's, we'll see. It's still a long season. Still a long season.
Indeed, 'cause this is kind of the time where you look at some of the nagging things and you say, all right, I want this to change, I want this to change, I want this aspect of the game to continue. And once you kind of get into the dog days, you kind of have a good idea of where everything has been compared to where they were at the beginning of the season, if it upheld or not, whether it's been adjusted appropriately or not. So, long way to go, folks.
Yeah, absolutely. And, we're April 22nd, which is a long way away from the end of the season. But you see the Cubs are in first by a game and a half.
Yep, it feels pretty good. And I'm really excited to see them play next week. I'm not going to be there in person, but to just watch them play at Fenway Park, that's always really exciting.
Oh, absolutely. And
a potential World Series matchup right there.
I'm just bummed that that Lackey and Lester are not going to pitch in that series.
I know. I would have loved to have seen John Lester on the mound for that series. So what, it's going to be Arrieta, Anderson, and Hendricks in that series then?
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah.
And it's funny because, the two ones that every sports writer probably wants to see, and I think every fan would love to see the reaction that the Boston fans give to John Lester and to give to John Lackey. It would be interesting because I don't know if John Lackey was liked so well there, but John Lester was loved.
Yeah, John Lester was probably the most popular pitcher in that era of Red Sox. From 2007 to 2013, he was probably the most popular pitcher on that team, in my opinion. I mean, maybe Clay Buchholz was around there, but nobody disliked John Lester in Boston.
Oh, Clay Buchholz. That guy looked like he, lived in a trailer out back of the stadium making meth.
Yeah, really did.
I hate to be. He might be a nice guy. I've never met him. I don't know him personally, but just judging a book by its cover was.
Yeah. Now he's rotting on the Phillies.
What's that?
Now he's rotting on the Phillies.
Yeah.
He's just kind of there.
Let's see. Tomorrow is Bronson Arroyo is pitching for the Reds.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's right. It's going to be Arroyo and John Lackey tomorrow afternoon.
Wow. That's Bronson Arroyo. He is still playing.
Is this 2009?
I know. Yeah, let's see.
Arroyo's been playing for 17 years.
That guy has made some money.
Yes, he has. Because think about it. He was with Cincinnati from 2006, his one All-Star year, to 2013. In 2014, he was with Arizona. In 2015 and 2016, he didn't even play. And now he's back with Cincinnati. He is 1-2 with an 8.40 ERA.
Yeah. So it looks like. Sorry, I'm just looking at the probables because they got tomorrow's the end of the season for the series against the Reds. And it's Lackey, Bronson Arroyo. Then Monday they go to Pittsburgh, and Brett Anderson's pitching the first game. Kyle Hendricks, and then I believe they said Lester's gonna pitch that last game against Pittsburgh, and then it's gonna be
right.
Arrieta, Anderson, and Hendricks are gonna. I believe that's what I heard on the radio today.
Yeah. Because didn't they do some switching around or something?
They did a little bit of switching, and they were saying that, Pittsburgh can't hit left-handed pitching, so they would rather have Lester go against the against the Pirates. That's kind of why Brett Anderson and John Lester are going to pitch against the Pirates to try to,
Yeah.
mitigate their steroid use.
Well, Lester was really good against the Pirates. Like I said, in the series, he just didn't get any run support. So, yeah, I guess that makes sense.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting. And that Red Sox series is going to be fun. Honestly, is growing up, I grew up in White Sox territory as a Cubs fan, which was always rough in school because people
I couldn't imagine.
just were horrible and mean-spirited about it. And it's funny is, I don't know about you, do you have an American League team that you root for?
Like not like root for as in go out and watch, but like I do enjoy some teams. Like I actually always did like the Indians, I'll be completely honest, as an American League team. I also liked Baltimore. So, like, not like a die-hard American League team, but, there are some American League teams that I do like.
Yeah, that's kind of me. And the Red Sox were kind of my American League team because they were not the White Sox. And I was like, well, I'll be a Red Sox
That
fan.
makes sense.
And then once they won World Series, their fans suddenly became Yankee fans.
Right.
And
that's probably what we're going to turn into.
I hope not. I hope not. But yeah, the Red Sox fans became Yankee fans, and I was just like, I can't deal with this. And I've always liked the Orioles for some unknown reason. Cal Ripken.
There's no reason to dislike them.
Cal Ripken
I mean,
is
when you
my
think
all-time favorite player.
Yep.
And so I'm like, all right, well then, the Orioles are now my American League team, like that. So I can't ever imagine their fans ever becoming Yankee fans.
Orioles fans, no. Orioles fans really do keep to themselves.
Yeah,
They're great fans, but they don't parade around saying O's were the O's,
If you ever get a chance to go to that stadium, it's really nice.
I'm dying to see that ballpark.
It's hilarious. It's because
Love
when you
to
drive
see it.
past it, it looks like a factory, and you're like, you would never. It doesn't look like a stadium from the highway, but when you go in the stadium, it's really nice. I've been lucky enough to go to a bunch of stadiums. Mostly, I've never gone to too many of them out west. I went to Dodger Stadium one time, which was not that impressive. But the Phillies' new stadium is very nice. The new Met Stadium is very nice. Shea Stadium was a dump.
Horrible stadium. Horrible.
The new one is
stadium.
nice. Cincinnati's got a nice stadium. Baltimore's got a nice stadium. The Tigers have a nice stadium. You're just like,
You know what stadium I don't like? The new Yankee Stadium is so bland and characterless. The old one was amazing.
I never been to Yankee Stadium, old or new. I've been in New York a ton. I used to live in Philadelphia, and it's about the distance between Chicago and Milwaukee away. So I would spend a lot of weekends in New York because I had friends there. But my friends lived in Queens, so it's very close to Shea Stadium. So if we would go to a game, it would always be a Mets game because they were right there. And my friends, one, he's from here, so he's a White Sox fan. But all my New York New Yorker friends are Mets fans. So we would go to Mets games. I've never been to Yankee Stadium. I can't speak firsthand. So always been on my bucket list, but never actually gotten a chance to do it.
I just remember watching games at that old stadium with the Yankees, and it was so full of life and energy. And every time I watch a Yankee game with the new one, it just seems so drab and bland and concrete and just no character. And the prices are way too expensive for people to afford, so you see a lot of empty seats. There's just nothing really appealing about it. But, that's just kind of my take.
And we should probably mention the White Sox, as they had some games. They're still a mediocre team. They're being carried offensively by Avi Garcia still. Tim Anderson, their new high-priced infielder, batting 169. Melky Cabrera's batting 260. Abreu's batting 190. Todd Frazier Todd Frazier is batting 100 even.
But he's better than Chris Bryant.
Oh, well, clearly, duh.
I mean, there's no one that got the TWTW like old Tower.
Y'all don't TWTW. I hate Hawk Harrelson.
He's the best I've ever seen.
I hate Hawk Harrelson. He is so annoying.
One of my best friends is a White Sox fan. Absolutely loathes Hawk. Like he like has to mute the TV to watch his own team play when Hawk is on. Actually, no. Two of my good friends can't stand Hawk who are White Sox fans. So what does that say?
Yeah, it's bad. I don't know why. And just think as how dumb he sounds. He used to be the White Sox GM.
Yeah, and he fired Tony La Russa. So what does that tell you?
Was he the GM that when they traded Sammy Sousser?
I don't know if he was at that point. I know he's famous for firing Tony La Russa over some petty little thing.
He didn't have TWTW.
Yeah, well, the will to win is always what's important. And when I played with Yaz had all the TWTW in the world.
Oh my God, he loves talking about Carl Yastrzemski.
I know. But I'm going to say this. Well, after your point. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh my God, have you ever heard him talk about advanced metrics in baseball?
Don't hit the ball, catch the ball.
Oh, he is like, he thinks it's the stupidest thing ever. I was like, there's not a team right now that's winning without using advanced metrics. Just not happening.
Yep. Yep.
I mean, is it 100% like, Billy Bean predicted that, no, you have to eyeball some things, but
yep.
Nothing's going to ever take away from a really great scout, but you utilize this. It's so important in the utilization.
It is. You have to get with the times of baseball. You're not going to succeed.
Yeah, you have to know what the pitching numbers are against a guy. They can't hit left-handed pitches. And look, the advanced metrics helped the Cubs beat the Dodgers last year.
Yes, they did. Yes, they did. You look at small things like spin rate and other big things, and it makes a difference.
Absolutely. But
their new guy though is so good, Jason Benetti.
Yeah,
their new. He's great. He is. I actually will watch a Sox game if I have a chance, and if Benetti's calling it, I like listening to him. I enjoy his broadcasts. He's really, really good.
But you had another rough start by Quintana again today. Or yesterday.
I was going to ask you. Yeah.
He gave up 3 more runs. ERA he's 0-4 with over a 6 ERA.
I was going to ask you this question. If you were a White Sox fan, would you be worried about him? About his trade value? Because let's face it, when you're looking at Quintana as a White Sox fan, you're looking at the trade value. That's what you're looking at. Are you in any way worried about that right now?
Oh, absolutely. You have to be. You have to be. I mean, you really need to be able to move him. I think is my buddy who's a diehard White Sox fan really thinks that they can keep him and build the staff around him. I mean, in 4 years, you're still going to have him under your control, but at that point, he's going to be 32. He's not going to be your staff ace at 32 years old. I think you got to move him, and that 4 year,
I think so too.
4 years of control, you've got to be able to do it, and I think although he's been just absolutely consistent prior to this year, his stuff isn't electric like Chris Sale. And he's never, his numbers aren't gaudy just because he's never gotten run support.
Right.
So, and he's like, he doesn't talk. He's just, media silent. So he's
right.
Chris Sale is known outside of Chicago. Is like, I mean, honestly, if you go nationwide, what outside of the AL Central team fans is, does anybody know anything about the White Sox players? They probably knew Chris Sale but other than that,
Yeah, everyone knew Chris Sale.
is, Jose Quintana, and that's even among GMs and things, is like, he's just not a sexy player. And if you're going to give up, like the farm to get a pitcher, is you want somebody with cachet. And it's, if, part of being a GM is the perception. And if you make a move now for something that's going to benefit you a year down the road, that doesn't always help you. You need fans on board right then. You can't have them calling for your head. And if you trade away a bunch of great pitchers for Jose Quintana, but your whole farm system for Jose Quintana, how does that look to your fans? You bring in a Chris Sale, that shows, we want to win right now. But what does a Jose Quintana tell you? And if you're the White Sox, is you can't cut the market for a guy like that, but he's not creating his own market. So at what point do you say that his 4 years of control is going to be more important than some of the stats he has? If you wait till next year at trade deadline, and then it suddenly cuts you down to like 2.5 years of team control, and that just doesn't look nearly as good as a 30-year-old pitcher, 2.5 years of control, versus a 28-year-old pitcher with 3.5 years of control.
Yeah, timing does have to do with a lot of trades like that, whether it's contract, whether it's age, whether it's the demand. There's so many different factors that play into all this. So I look at Quintana now and I say, I've been saying for a long time how they need to find the right deal. He can't make a trade to make a trade, but if he doesn't pick things up, then will people be saying you should have at least gotten the most of what you could when you could instead of waiting? So it's going to be a lot of kind of back and forth with Quintana until something actually does happen with him.
Yeah, absolutely. And looking at some of his stats, the average is never that low. His whip's never that low. His ERA is never that low, but the guy is consistent. I guess starting probably with 2013, 200 innings, 200.1, 206.1, 208. ERA 3.51, 332, 336, 320. Whip 0.91, 105, 120, 0.8. I'm sorry, that was ground out strikeout. Whip 122, 124, 127, 116.
Consistent.
Yeah. Walks 56, 52, 44, 50. Strikeouts 164, 178, 177, 181. That is I can't imagine like coming up any more consistent than that. So you wonder what's going on this year, because and it's funny, over that time, his record, number of starts, 33, 32, 32, 32. Record, 9-7, 9-11, 9-10, 13-12.
I think he leads the league in no decisions the past 5 years. I'm pretty sure that's a legit stat. Like, he leads the league in that.
He might. But this year is just, it's, I mean, even if you just glance at his stats, they stick out like a sore thumb. His whip is a good 20% higher than any other year. The batting average is 20, 25 points higher than usual. The number of home runs is on pace to be way higher. The ERA is double. So you wonder what's wrong, if it's now he's the ace and he's going up. I mean, even that shouldn't matter. That should matter your wins and losses. I don't know. I don't know what the deal is. If there's an injury there, or if it's just the fact that he is the ace, that it's a mental thing.
Yeah, he's knowing that he's on this team that's rebuilding and that he hears all the buzz around him being traded. That might take a mental toll on someone.
Yeah, I mean, he's from Colombia, so it's not like this is his first language. I'm sure when you hear everything in context in your own language, you're able to process it better and discuss things. But when you're hearing things through a translator and without the context, it's got to be a little bit harder and add another layer to that stress.
Yeah, and it's hard to be in this environment when it's not your natural environment. It's hard to play on a team that expects you to not be good. I just think there's a lot of factors that could potentially mess with someone's head, and we'll never know for sure how much it does, but you can't help but question it.
Yeah. Looking at his spin rate's way down.
Yeah, well, a lot of stuff is flat over the plate. I mean, that's why he's getting teed off so much. Like, I think his worst start this year was in Minnesota, and I think he gave up like 5 runs in the first inning. Everything was just hanging right there and being hammered.
Yeah, I mean, the pitch speed is right on target with, looking at his four-seamer, it's right on target with his career average. It's 92 miles an hour, but in the perceived speed is actually a little bit faster than his average, but the exit velocity is higher and his spin rate's much lower. So there's just I don't know what the root cause of that is.
Yeah, it's a mystery to me. I don't know. He'll probably be talking to Don Cooper a lot, that's for sure. Before we transition, I have a stat for you.
Okay.
And this popped up on Twitter. You kind of touched it on already. Besides Melky Cabrera and Avisail Garcia, opening day starters are hitting below 190.
Yeah. They are.
That includes Frazier. That includes Abreu. That includes Jacob May. That includes Tim Anderson. That includes who else? Whoever they're starting. I think Omar Narvaez, one of the catchers. So it kind of goes to show right there.
Well, the other guy that was
the hitting.
Well, the other guy that was hitting for the White Sox was Giovanni Soto, and he's on the disabled list now.
He just came back today, but yes.
Oh, they moved him back today.
Yeah, he played in today's game. I just looked at the box score, but he did just come back. Yeah, he's been on the DL.
Yeah, Jacob May is he's, if I'm looking at this correct on MLB.com, he is 0 for 26 this season.
He got his first career hit tonight, so he's 1 for like 28.
Oh, that is terrible.
Yeah, I think us Sox fans can agree. I mean, it's kind of a nice story, but he really doesn't belong in the big leagues.
Yeah, no, he does not.
He was an average player in AAA, so,
Yeah, I mean, at least Avi Garcia is hitting well. You wonder at that point, pose this, is come trade deadline, if Avi Garcia is still hitting like this, do you trade him? Knowing he's in the contract year, do you trade Avi Garcia? Or do you try to re-sign him?
I think my question is, what could they get for him? I still don't think his value would be all that incredibly high, knowing what he's done in the past and knowing that his defense still really isn't very good. I don't know if they'd get really any desired value for him, even if he does keep playing well.
I don't know. I mean, at least if you trade him and nobody else is still hitting at that point, you can start tanking some games. Because can you imagine where this team would be at without Avi Garcia?
They'd probably... they might have like only 2 wins right now. I'm being dead serious. Maybe 2 or 3.
They'd be a bad team. And right now they're not that bad of a record.
They're 7-9. They were above 500 for a day. They were playing a good stretch of baseball against They were playing the Twins and the Indians their first go-around, and then they went to New York, and they got pretty much killed except for one game. And so far they've gotten killed in these 2 games against the Indians on the south side at home. So I think, the White Sox always seem to get off to a really good start where their pitching starts pitching really well, and it kind of picks up the offense. But you're seeing a lot of injuries in the starting rotation, and things are going to slip.
Yeah, this team is not good, but they're going to drop down from where they are. They're going to see a dip, and you're going to see separation from them in the pack.
Yeah, and like I said, the White Sox are not the worst team in baseball to me, and I think that a lot of those low batting averages, like we talked about, sustainability, I think that they will pick up. Abreu's going to start hitting a little better. I bet Tim Anderson starts hitting a little better. Frazier probably starts hitting a few more home runs. So you're going to see a pickup in the offense, but you're going to see, as we're already seeing, you're seeing the pitching regress. Because at the beginning it was all the pitching, no hitting. I think you'll see kind of things start to change on each spectrum, but it's not going to be good enough to obviously be really good.
No, absolutely. And you're already seeing the pitching. James Shields went on the DL.
Yeah. He's turning into a junk baller. Like, he's a pure junk baller now.
Yeah, he is. But, yeah, the White Sox are already tied for last place in the division. They're 2.5 games out of first. But you're going to see that separation as Cleveland... Cleveland didn't start out very good the beginning of the season. You're going to...
They'll pick it up.
They're a really, really good team. They're on paper, they're better than last year's team.
Sure.
And you're going to see them go on a streak, and you're going to see them start way separating themselves from the pack, which I don't think that Detroit's that bad of a team, but you're going to see them separate from them, and the White Sox are going to, they're going to really separate from them.
Detroit is just too old and slow. They got a lot of talent, but they're too old, they're too slow, they don't really have much of a bullpen. I definitely agree that the Indians are far and away the best team in this division. With the Tigers, will probably be second, and they're going to separate from the bottom. In the bottom, it's going to be a battle of the Twins, the White Sox, and the Royals.
Yeah, and just kind of, the Baltimore has got a really good team. I think they're not going to keep up this torrid pace that they're on, but they're going to, I think, make the playoffs. Boston's going to pick it up. They're 10-8 right now, but they're too good of a team to be there. The Yankees are going to bottom out because they're not a very good team, and you're starting to see that against the White Sox.
They have some great young players, some fantastic young players, but it's not enough to contend this year. But they're on a heck of a course.
You wonder what Toronto's going to do. They're 4-12 right now, and you just wonder where they're going to finish up because.
If they don't dig out of their hole soon, they're done.
Yeah, Tampa's not that great, but
they're bad.
New York's gonna bottom out there. I think you're gonna see Boston and Baltimore both make the playoffs. Cleveland is gonna be the only one from that division, probably, that's gonna make the playoffs.
Honestly, I could see Cleveland winning the division by like 10 games.
Yeah, and then Houston. I think Houston's going to run away with that division. I just don't know who that other wild card is going to be.
I was so high in the Mariners going into the season, but they look like pure sewage.
Yeah, you can't expect it to be the Angels. Maybe Texas comes back.
That's the other one. That's really the other one right now.
I can't see Oakland doing that.
No, they're bad.
They've got a nice record now, or okay record, but I just can't see them continuing.
That's not going to last.
Minnesota, no. Kansas City, no. Toronto, not at this point probably. Tampa Bay, no. Yankees, definitely no. Angels, no. It's looking like we already know what's going to happen in the American League.
Right.
The Washington is looking great in the National League. They had another good game today, beating the Mets. I predicted the Mets not being that great this year. And they're not looking so hot. I think Washington runs away with that. I think the Cubs run away with the Central. I think I wouldn't be shocked. I would not be shocked if both wild cards came out of the NL West.
Yeah. I think it's going to be the Dodgers. I think the Giants, I'm not high on them at all. I think they stink. Their bullpen isn't good. They just lost Madison Bumgarner to something incredibly stupid. Their lineup isn't that good. I'm not high on the Giants at all.
No, but Arizona intrigues me.
Look out for them.
Yeah.
Don't take them for
Don't
granted.
take Colorado for granted, and don't take the Dodgers. So at this point,
I picked Colorado to finish second.
I think those three teams make the playoffs with the Cubs and the Nationals. I think that's your playoffs for the National League.
Sure.
I'm calling this in April.
Yeah, well, we did early predictions, so you might as well.
Might as well. So the Blackhawks.
Yeah, this is the main thing I wanted to talk about tonight.
I think this is the main thing we all kind of wanted to talk about tonight.
Yep.
Oh, you know what? We got one more topic. Is the Bulls? The
Bulls
looked awesome those first two games.
Yes, they did.
I was so shocked. They played as a cohesive team, and
especially game two.
The guy that everybody was trying to run out of town, Rajon Rondo, was the leader on the court. Not Dwayne Wade, not Jimmy Butler, Rajon Rondo.
He was conducting the symphony out there.
He looked. I mean, it wasn't even that stellar of a play, but it was just like you're right. It was like a conductor. He was playing head games with the Boston players. He was at the sidelines yelling, "They quit," and just he got in their heads. Very Dennis Rodman-ish. And this mysterious broken thumb, which they claim happened in the third quarter of Game 2.
I never even saw it.
He played in the fourth quarter, and so we didn't hear about it fourth quarter.
I had no idea. Yeah.
We didn't hear about it, that next day. We didn't hear the day after that. It wasn't until, just before the third game that you hear about this. That how nobody reported it from practice. None of not Casey Johnson, not any of the Bulls beat reporters reported anything about it. So makes me think that either it was a non-basketball injury or there's some other shenanigans going on, because nothing adds up.
It really doesn't. And I tried to, because I watched that whole game and I tried to think about what the heck happened, and from the highlights and the footage, I couldn't find anything. I was so flabbergasted when I heard about that. I said, what the hell? When did this happen? When I got the first update on my phone. And I went right to Twitter and I tried to find some more information, and people are like saying the same thing. When the hell did this happen? And you're thinking, at least I'm thinking, and I'm going to say this right now, I think losing Rajon Rondo costs the Bulls this series. I really do.
Oh, yeah. The Bulls are done. And it's funny because we all predicted this, and they come out and they laid an egg against the Celtics in Game 3. And the Celtics were reeling. They just completely did a shakeup of their starting lineup to go small ball, and it was kind of the nuclear option, and they pulled it for Game 3, and it didn't need to, because the Bulls fell apart.
Right. They weren't hitting shots. They were taking miserable shots. They couldn't rebound like they could. They were turning the ball over. Like, everything they were doing right in games 1 and 2, they were doing completely wrong in Game 3. And it's kind of funny that this is happening when you had the two first games dominated by the Bulls in many aspects on the road. Then you come home and you play really bad.
Yeah, and so I don't know what to expect. I don't know what they expect me to expect for Game 4. I know what I'm going to expect. I'm going to expect Game 3 just on repeat. But I don't know what the Bulls, their answer is, and I don't know what they think I'm going to expect.
Yeah, so it's weird because as much as I hated seeing the Bulls make the playoffs, as much as I hated seeing more validation for the Garpax delusion and the front office in general and the management and the ownership, I was having fun. I was having fun watching the Bulls for the first time in a long time.
Yeah.
It's probably because of a distraction from what we're going to talk about next, but I was having fun. I was standing and clapping, and I keep reminding myself, I'm like, this is not good for the future at all. This is terrible for the future, but I'm going to have fun with this because what else can I do?
Yeah, absolutely. That was the same boat. It's funny because my wife was like, why are you so into this Bulls game? And I didn't even go down to my basement to watch on the big TV. I had it on the iPad up, sitting on the porch. We have an upstairs porch, and I was sitting on the porch drinking a beer, watching it on my iPad. And she's like, "You're clapping and you're cheering and you're nail biting," and I was like, "This is fun basketball. This is what we were all hoping for all season." And we get it for 2 games, and then the rug gets pulled out from under us.
Yeah. That's why we can't have nice things.
That really is. We can't have nice things.
We really can't.
Oh, goodness. All right. Now for real skis this time.
Yes.
The Blackhawks.
What a nightmare.
I, honest to goodness, thought after the first 2 games that the team would rally around. Quenneville would shake up the lineups. They would switch up their style of play and make this series. And they didn't.
Yep.
And well, game 3, they went up 2-0.
Yep.
And you're like, okay, this is it. I thought we'd see more goal scoring and we'd see a little bit more from the Blackhawks style wise, but we're like, all right, they're up 2-0. They're going to hold this lead, and they pooped the bed.
Big time. As soon as they went to overtime, I said they're going to be down 0-3. I knew it. And you know what? They played terrible in overtime. And I said it was amazing how they lasted as long as they did in overtime before losing.
Yeah,
because there were several.
Overtime did not look good at all.
They couldn't do anything. They could do nothing right. They couldn't get the puck. They couldn't defend. The only thing that was keeping the Blackhawks with any sort of heartbeat was Corey Crawford. And that is why seeing people blame him for a series in which the Blackhawks scored 3 total goals makes me want to punch a wall and scream, because it shows that some people just do not understand what a goaltender has to go through when the team is leaving them out to dry like that.
Yeah, it's mind-boggling. I just don't understand what more people want from him. And I even heard it this morning. I was dropping my daughter off at my mom's house, and on the radio there was people just like, well, they just need to trade Corey Crawford because Scott Darling is a number 1, and he's cheaper.
Look, I like Scott Darling. I think he's very talented. But we've seen times where Scott Darling is very inconsistent. He's had much more upside than downside. But we've seen times where Scott Darling looks a little shaky, and I don't know. I hate saying anything bad about Scott Darling because I think he is really good and I really like him, but people think it's so easy. If Scott Darling has a bad year next year, people are going to be saying, why do we trade Crawford? Why do we trade Crawford if that were to happen? It's not that easy. It's not just easy to say trade Crawford. There's so many circumstances you got to think about there.
We also don't have Scott Darling under contract for next year.
Right, so they'd have to re-sign him anyway.
Absolutely. And plus, Corey Crawford has a no-trade clause. You can't just trade him.
As most of the core does.
I mean, it's a full no-trade clause. So I don't know what you... What are you expecting to do? You just can't force the guy to take the pay cut. I mean, the trade.
Well, that's not just a problem with Crawford. If you actually look at most of this team, like some of the pieces, they're all in that same boat. And you have people yelling, blow up the core, start over, trade it all. I'm like, well, first of all, that's a little extreme. Second of all, it's much easier said than done because of all these no-trade clauses. So, just keep that in mind. It's kind of a uncertain situation for the Hawks right now, if you want my personal opinion on that.
Oh yeah, it's a little bit of a scary situation. And I guess the scariest one for me is Jonathan Taves didn't look good this series. He
was like that fourth grader in a 8th grade hockey rink, and he's getting tossed and overthrown and skated past, and it's getting in his head. He looked so overmatched. Yeah, and that turnover in the last game, it was almost like he just wanted this to be over. It was sad to see. You saw far too many shots from far out. There was nobody. You'd get a guy in front of Pekka Rinne, but it wasn't effective. Like he wasn't. You weren't blocking him out. You weren't creating traffic in front of the net. And other than a couple of times you tried, getting it right into the crease for a greasy goal, it was a rough series. And the Blackhawks had so many problems entering the zone cleanly, and they never strayed away from it. They just kept, and they couldn't get anything set up. They couldn't get anything set up. It was frustrating as a fan, because you're like, well, why not try? Even if you want to enter the zone the traditional way, is there's been times where they've tried entering it through passes off the boards or something like that. That just is skating it through the zone was not working. And they kept doing it. I said dump and chase, pass off the board, do something different. Yeah. It's not working. They never tried anything different. And you're like, no, they didn't. And you saw the result. Game 3 was the one that the Blackhawks had to win. Once they lost it in the fashion they lost it, where they gave up 2 goals late and just got dominated in overtime. Game 4, they just came out, and you knew from 5 minutes into the game that the Blackhawks were going to lose. Oh, I knew it was over. I knew it was over. And I try to be as optimistic as I can about the Hawks from the past few years, but I knew it was over. The way things were going, the way the puck was bouncing, the way they couldn't get anything going. As soon as Nashville scored their first goal, I pretty much fully gave up. I'm like, there's no way we're winning this game. I mean, I try to stay positive. I try to really, be that force of positivity on Twitter, but it was really hard because they were not giving much to cheer about. Yeah, there really was nothing to cheer about. The most there was to cheer about in Game 4 was a big hit by Duncan Keith. That's literally it. And it's funny because, most people were like, "Oh, this is it. This is where the Blackhawks turn it on." And I was like, it was a nice hit, but that's not really what the Blackhawks do. No, it's not. You look at the way Nashville just answered everything, whether it was with physical play or just positioning on the ice. They were a step ahead on everything. And the Hawks were getting so frustrated to the point where it looked just miscombobulated, like they never played in an NHL playoff game before.
Yeah, and it was, guys that aren't superstars were just dominating the Blackhawks. Forsberg, not a superstar. Not even that great of a player. And he just looked like Wayne Gretzky in his prime.
Yeah. I mean, Pekka Rinne, who, don't get me wrong, is a really good goaltender. He made some really good saves, but people made him out to be like Yaroslav Halak in 2010, where he was facing like 40 shots a game and making unreal saves. So many of the saves that Pekka Rinne had to make were very easy on-target shots. Like, there was nothing really difficult about it. And then, in addition to that, you had, I think it was Game 4, where Panarin had a great chance, and he missed the net. He was right in front of it, and he flat out missed it.
Yeah, it was rough. And I don't know where they go from here. It's clearly not a team you blow up, because you saw what they did in the regular season. But part of me is I know everybody was like, at the last few games of the season, we're like, well, it's the last game of the season, no big deal. But the one that really stuck out for me was that 7-0 loss versus the Panthers.
Oh, that was bad.
That should have been a turn the lights on situation where you go, okay, even if we weren't playing up to what we should, that we shouldn't be losing 7-0 to the Florida Panthers.
Yeah, that was really, really awful. The last stretch of the season was really bad, and we tried not to think about it too much because we thought, oh, they're just resting guys, yada, yada, yada. But then you start thinking, and you're like, well, maybe they rested them a little too much.
I don't know, but it was...
It's hard to know.
It's really hard to know, and part of it is the young kids got to put their big boy pants on because they look like a deer in the headlights a little bit. Your superstars got to score. Your coach has to stop being stubborn and change the system if it's not working against the team. I would be absolutely shocked if Nashville is going to beat St. Louis. I'll be shocked.
Yeah, I think it's going to be an interesting series. The Nashville Predators have a pretty good challenge against St. Louis. St. Louis has gotten hot at the right time. So it's going to be difficult to really know for me who's going to pull out. I don't know. I would favor the Blues, but, hockey's such a weird sport. So I will hate both teams in that series, but I'll also be very, very intrigued. Like, it'll be a good series to watch, I feel like.
I think so, too. And, St. Louis definitely caught on fire at the right time, but they're a really talented team. We should have expected them like that all season long. But I just can't see. I just feel like Nashville was more up for this series against the Blackhawks. They were better prepared, better coached, and had a better game plan.
Oh, way outcoached. We were way outcoached by Pete Laviolette. Way outcoached.
And that's sad to think about.
He finally got his revenge after 2010 and 2015.
So I just, it's nothing. There's no wholesale changes that you're gonna have to make. There's definitely changes you're gonna have to do. And step one is we'll see what happens when the expansion draft happens. And
right.
And I think it's time, if you're able to, is move Brent Seabrook.
Brett Seabrook, I think that contract is going to be a problem in the future. I really do. I like Seabrook. I always have, but I think he's past his prime. His best days are behind him. He's really slow. He's not handling the puck at the blue line that well this year. I think we're seeing a real decline. I think we've seen a decline the past 2 years or so. He was great in the late 2000s, early 2010s, but he's over 30. He's making a lot of money, and I think that's going to pose some issues. I really do.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully somebody bails us out like when we traded Brian Campbell the first time.
Yeah.
Florida.
Well, I'm going to
bailed
say
us out.
Yeah, they really did. I'm going to say this. The defensive core for me is one of the biggest issues because the defensive core as a whole is old and slow. And doing this patchwork, old and slow defensive stuff against a game now that's very fast and quick, it's just not going to cut it. You can't rely on your goaltending to bail you out like they have all season. Let's face it.
And you can't bank on Duncan Keith being your savior because he looked pedestrian out there.
Yeah, and you know what? I'm still going to say it. I could be completely wrong, but this is just a theory. I think that 2015 playoff run where he carried the defense on his back along with Corey Crawford for so much of that, I think that almost takes a physical toll on a player that is going to last the rest of his career. Because what he did was unbelievable.
Who knows? But he just didn't look the same all season long. You saw flashes of what he was, but you never
Right.
saw that guy as a whole. And it came the playoff time. There was times he was turned around. You didn't see the speed. It just wasn't that guy that helped you win 3 titles.
Right. And, like, again, this is not a knock on their skill. We know how skilled these players are, but, you know, in hockey and that kind of game with all that mileage on them, it doesn't last forever. Other guys like Johnny Oduya did absolutely nothing coming back.
Nope.
Absolutely nothing.
Nope.
I think Brian Campbell is done. Yep. He's not a bad player, but, I mean, how old is he
He's
now?
a guy who's got a few more years on
down.
there, but he's going to be in a team that's not a contending team. He's going to be a filler that can score some goals and play all right for some middle of the road team that's just you don't expect anything from.
Well, that's definitely the kind of player he is. I know he's saying now it's either Blackhawks resign or retirement, so if the Blackhawks don't want him back, he's probably done.
Blackhawks, who knows, because they keep signing Michael Rosefall, so they'll probably keep signing Brian Campbell.
That's true. I'm not saying that they won't or will not re-sign him. I'm just saying if they don't end up re-signing him, he will be done. But yeah, they probably will. Michael Rosefall should have been gone 3 years ago. Trevor Van Riemsdyk is very disappointing. I still think that those constant injuries just kind of ruined him because I had a lot of faith in him. I was really excited about him, but he just hasn't been the same since his rookie year. They're really high on Michael Kepney, and he can have some promise. They're high on Forsling. He could have some promise, but right now, the Blackhawks' young staff of next-generation players, it's really all forwards. There's really no superstar defenseman in that mix, and that's going to be a problem, I think.
Yeah, and that's going to be the big key going forward is how they deal with that situation.
And I want to get into the comments, I'm sure you do too, about Stan Bowman. Have you ever seen him that mad? Because I don't think anyone has.
What's that? I'm sorry.
Stan Bowman, he was so pissed at the presser this morning. Like the reporters were almost scared of him of how mad he was.
Yeah, I mean, he rightfully should be. This team should have been able to coast through this, as much as you can coast through a NHL playoff series. You should have been able to coast through this one. Had a rough one against St. Louis, and then probably gone to the conference championship, if at worst. And that's the team you put together, and they just didn't produce.
Well, and even if you don't win the first round, if the Predators just they shouldn't have been this badly beaten. Like, this was historically bad.
They gave up that fourth game. They just gave up.
Right, exactly. And I loved what he said, and I loved his anger. Absolutely loved it, because you know what it tells me? It tells me he's not going to be like a nostalgic, oh, but we won in 2015, 2013, 2010 kind of guy. No, he wants to keep winning. He wants to maintain winning. He doesn't want to just live in the past nostalgia and just kind of be like, whatever for the future and live off those royalties. He is passionate about winning every year. And I am glad that he's ready to step in and he's ready to say, let's make some changes, because let's take a look at the regular season. And even Patrick Kane himself admitted this. I'm going to say it, you may disagree, but I know some people do agree. The Blackhawks pulled 50 wins out of their ass. That was a season that saw a lot of bailing out from goaltending, a lot of puck luck. It was nowhere near the 50-win team of 2010. That was a much more dominant team. The 2013 team was a dominant team. This was not a dominant team, except for that time in March and in February. Through a lot of the year, they grinded out wins and just figured out a way to win without dominating. I didn't think they were as good as a traditional 50-win team. But regardless, you don't expect to lose like that, and you expect a team with so much experience to go far in the playoffs.
Yeah, absolutely. But, you know, we are where we are, and we know some of the matchups already. Is Calgary got bounced in 4 games. Minnesota got bounced in 5 games. And hopefully Edmonton can pull out against the Sharks. But Pittsburgh won. Rangers beat Montreal, knocked Montreal out, which is a biggie. And it would be nice to see the Maple Leafs go on to win the series, but they're down 3-2. That's going to be a tough one. Ottawa,
especially against
Ottawa, can knock out Boston. I'll be very happy.
I am rooting for Ottawa to win the Stanley Cup. I'm going to be completely honest. I want Ottawa to win.
Yeah, I'm rooting for either Ottawa or Toronto. But I don't think Toronto's going to make it out of this first round. It's going to be hard to win 2 straight games against the Capitals.
And they shouldn't be ashamed of it, because they have such an incredibly young team with a few more holes to fill. And if they had what they had this year, then their future is looking really bright.
And that Capitals team is just a buzzsaw. They're a really good team.
The Capitals really just need to freaking win, because they've been so good for so long and they haven't made it past the second round. I truly feel like if they don't win this year, they never will.
Yeah, but you're right. I'm going to be rooting for Ottawa. I mean, not like actively like, yeah, I'm Ottawa fan, but there's no way in hell I root for Nashville or St. Louis. There's no way I root for the Ducks. If San Jose wins, there's a 0% chance I'll root for them. The Oilers, I know that they're going to be a rival for the Blackhawks going forward, so I can't root for them. I'm not a big Penguins fan. I hate the Rangers, so yeah, it's Ottawa is kind of the obvious choice there.
Honestly, I want to see the Cup come out of Canada at the very least. When it comes to the West, I really don't mind the Sharks that much. I really don't. I don't mind the Oilers that much. I know they'll be a future rival for the Hawks, but the Sharks and the Oilers are the only West teams that I wouldn't mind that much seeing win. Whoever wins Nashville and the Blues, I hope they just get killed in the Western Conference Finals. I think the Eastern Conference playoffs are going to be a bit more intriguing overall, but I think it's going to be a really fun ride of playoffs the next 2 months or so. It's just really a shame that we're sitting here on April 22nd and there's no more Blackhawks playoff hockey.
Yeah, it's a sad state of affairs. I don't know how much hockey I'll watch. Honestly, I mean, I'll watch some, but I don't know if I'll sit down and watch whole games for most of these series.
I watch bits and pieces. It's just hard to watch a whole game when there's a bunch of different things going on, and when there's the Hawks are on, you plan around that, but when the Hawks aren't on, you get a little looser with your planning.
Absolutely. So I guess that's probably going to do it for this episode of Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago. Is there anything else you wanted to add, my friend?
There is one more question I have for you.
Okay.
Was this Blackhawks series the worst playoff series you've seen from a Chicago team within the past, 20 years or your lifetime?
No. I'm going to say that Cubs team that got trounced by the Giants with Will Clark and Kevin Mitchell and Matt Williams was probably worse.
In 1989.
But this was right up
for
there.
Me, yeah, it's definitely up there for me. I think the 08 Cubs is probably the worst in my memory, but, I'm a lot younger.
Yeah, the 89 team is, I don't know if it was just the fact that, we weren't used to them being there and we just expected something, but I just had my hopes up so high and Will Clark just beat them down with that bat.
And what's funny? The whole Billy Goat Curse story, you look at the highlighted years of that, 1989 is the one playoff year that's not really talked about all that much. Everyone talks about 1969 and the collapse. Everyone talks about the collapse in 1984. Everyone talks about 2003. They don't really talk much about 1998 because that team really didn't have much of a chance to win. And people talk about the Cubs getting swept in 2008. All before the curse ended last year. But 1989's that one kind of playoff run that Cubs fans don't really talk about much in the curse, when there was, some interesting stuff that happened in that series, because I've watched the games on replay, and seeing Will Clark go ham was kind of nuts.
Yeah, I was just heartbroken at that point. It was just that series really broke me.
Yeah, well, luckily we don't have to sulk in that anymore.
Suck it, Will Clark.
Exactly. And you know what, I put this all in perspective. As bad and depressing as that Blackhawks playoff series was, I'm over it. I'm not sulking in it. I know it was bad, but I'm kind of over it now. If this would have happened a few years ago before they won any cups, or they got to this point and they haven't won a cup, I would be beyond livid. Beyond livid. And I feel like I should be more mad than I am about this series, but putting things in perspective of what this team has done with all the cups, I don't want to be overly nostalgic, but at the same time, I don't feel the pain that I felt in 2008 when the cursed Cubs were swept. Does that make sense?
And I wasn't sad about this series. My wife was like, she's like, I forgot that game ended last night. She was out with her friend the night of the last game. And I put my daughter to bed and I went upstairs and was watching it. And she came home. She's like, oh, you were in a surprisingly good mood for the Hawks getting knocked out. She's like, and I was like, I wasn't sad. I was just annoyed.
I was annoyed with the Nashville fan base for being really annoying, but that's whatever. They could do what they want. I was kind of numb. I'm like, wow, this really just happened. But when I saw all this Hawks success for over the years, I kind of said, there's going to be one year where they take an absolute dump in the playoffs. And, well, this was
absolutely it. And quick fact is, Will Clark, his last big contract with the Giants, it had a stipulation that he was not allowed to go spelunking.
What?
He was not allowed to go spelunking. Yeah.
Really? No caves, huh?
I just thought that was an odd thing to put in. I don't know if he's like a cave lover, but it was in the contract.
That's interesting. Very odd, but interesting.
I remember the Sun-Times wrote about it when he signed that contract, and I was like, what is spelunking? I had to this was before Google, so I had to go find a book in the library about spelunking.
Fun
Fun
stuff.
stuff indeed. Well, I guess that's going to do it for this episode of Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago. Thank you guys so much for listening. If you want to, make sure you hit subscribe to however you listen to your podcast, whether it's iTunes, YouTube, Stitcher. Give us 5 stars, share it with your friends, and until next time, bear down.
Cubs win! What a lucky break! The good Lord wants the Cubs to win!
We thank Ditka and God for all they have provided.
Cubs win! Cubs win! Cubs win!
Oh, I don't want her. You can have her. She's a Packer fan. She can't fit in my van.
And she looks like number New Yorkers. Smoking crack is not legal on planes. Bears 31 to -7. The Bears! Oh, when the Bears go bearing down.